Build a mind so strong, it scares people. Have you ever felt that even the lightest criticism could shake your heart? Just one cold glance, and suddenly you start doubting yourself. In a world that never stops rushing, where noise easily pulls us off track, there is a kind of strength that doesn't need to be shouted to be heard. It's the strength of a mind as solid as stone. One that doesn't waver in the face of gossip, one that doesn't back down in the face of failure. And then, when you truly possess it, people will start to fear you. Not because you threaten them, but because you're no longer easy to control. Today, I'm not here to teach you how to be perfect. I'm here to walk beside you, to begin a journey, the journey of forging a mind that cannot be broken. If you've ever felt too easily influenced by others, constantly doubting your worth, or simply tired of feeling weak in silence, then this video is for you. There is no magic formula, only the truth and an invitation. Step into the arena of inner training where no one can save you except yourself. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. Chapter 1: Transforming your mindset. No one is born strong. Try to remember, how many times have you fallen? Not because of a brutal hit, but because of a weak thought inside your mind. No one saw it, no one heard it, but that thought made you give up, delay, back down, even just a little. And little by little, it ate away at your spirit, until one day, you woke up and could no longer believe in yourself. And then you asked, why are others so strong while I always feel tired, full of doubt and fear? The answer isn't luck. It's not something you're born with. It's not because they were born with a heart of steel. They were once weak too, but they learned to transform their mindset in silence, in pain, and with discipline. A weak mindset isn't your fault, but staying there is a choice. Since we were young, we were taught how to avoid pain, but few taught us how to endure it and rise again after being hurt. Society tells us, seek safety. Advertising tells us, don't feel discomfort, here's something to make you feel better. Everything around us gently weakens our minds in sweet, subtle ways, but real life doesn't operate like advertising. No one comes into this world with a protective shield. Everyone will eventually face pain, betrayal, failure, and loss. And only those who have trained their minds from within will be strong enough to stand when everything else falls apart. First shift, seeing struggle as mental training. The Stoics believed, hardship doesn't ruin you, it reveals you. A weak mind sees obstacles and asks, why me? A strong mind sees the same thing and says, this is training. Don't wish for life to be easy, wish for the strength to face it. Don't fear failure, fear a life so comfortable that you'll never know how powerful you could have become. True story. Transformation doesn't need spotlights. You know, a man used to live like a shadow. I work by day and play video games by night. Weak body, lazy mind, a life with no meaning. One day, he read a line from Epictetus. We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. That sentence hit like a slap to the soul. He began to change, little by little. Woke up 15 minutes earlier, worked out for 10 minutes every morning, wrote down one negative thought a day to confront, not avoid, and most importantly, he stopped blaming anyone for anything. 2 years later, he became a different man. Not a millionaire, not famous, but solid like a rock in the middle of a storm. That man was me. Stoic mindset, no blame, no complaints, no escape. Marcus Aurelius once said, look at every challenge as if it were made to train you. If someone insults you today, take it as a test of your patience. If you lose your job, see it as a chance to start again with a clearer vision. If you're betrayed, treat it as a wake-up call to return to yourself. Transforming your mindset isn't fake positivity. It's the courage to face reality. Life is not fair. People will hurt you. Plans will fall apart. But still, you can hold your mind steady. No panic, no blame. End of chapter. Question: tonight, before you sleep, ask yourself, am I living like a warrior of the mind or a victim of weak thoughts? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, good. That's the first step to a fundamental transformation. A strong mindset is the foundation, but if you're still holding on to silent habits that weaken your mind every single day, then no foundation will last. Let's step into chapter 2. Let go of weakness, forge a mind in the fire, and remove each one before they remove you from your own life. Chapter 2. Let go of weakness, forge a mind in adversity. No one is born strong, but everyone has the choice to become strong. The most dangerous thing for your mind isn't the big storms. It's the slow, quiet drizzle that seeps in every day. Quote, you don't notice it, but it sinks deep. Weak habits don't shout at you. They whisper, softly, gently, and all too familiar. Just procrastinate this once. Just skip today. You'll get back on track tomorrow. Everyone does it. It's not a big deal. It's those small voices repeated every single day that slowly drains your inner power. And if you're not paying attention, you'll wake up one day with a mind fully controlled by hesitation, fear, and self-doubt. First shift: seeing struggle as a mental gym. We often avoid discomfort, treat it like the enemy. But the Stoics see it differently. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Fire tests gold. Adversity tests people." Every time you face something uncomfortable, ingrading into the depths, you've entered the gym of the mind. One criticism doesn't break you. One failure doesn't stop you. One bad day doesn't make you lose your mind. That's when the mind is being trained. From now on, whenever discomfort shows up, ask yourself, what is this training me for? That is the difference between an ordinary person and a resilient one. A Stoic doesn't avoid emotion. They use it as fuel to strengthen what lies within. True story, transformation doesn't need spotlights. I once met a man, not famous, not wildly successful, not loud, but there was something in his eyes, in the way he carried himself, a stillness that demanded respect. He had once been addicted to alcohol. He went bankrupt. He almost lost his family. He didn't share much, but there's one thing he said that I will never forget. I didn't fix my life with big gestures. I fixed it with small decisions, repeated every day. No spotlight, no audience. Fundamental transformation always starts small and always begins in silence. Stoic mindset. No blame, no complaints, no escape. A Stoic doesn't blame the outside world. They don't run from discomfort. They don't complain about emotions. Instead, they observe themselves. When anger rises, they ask, am I reacting or reflecting? When fear appears, they ask, is this real or just imagined? When someone insults them, they ask, what part of this is within my control? This is not a theory. This is inner martial arts, and anyone can train it. But it starts with one thing: daring to face your weak habits. No avoiding, no denying, no excuses. Real question: which habit is eating away at your mind? Be honest. Scrolling the moment you wake up? Procrastinating every time something feels hard? Making excuses instead of taking responsibility? Pick one habit, just one, and begin starving it. One day of silence, one act of resistance, one different choice, even the smallest. You'll be surprised how a small decision can restore a massive amount of self-respect. You've just cleared out the termites from your mind. Now it's time to rebuild it into a fortress. End of chapter. Question: who do you choose to be when no one's watching? When failure knocks, how do you respond? When insulted, do you lose control easily? When your plans collapse, do you blame or do you learn? A strong mind is not forged under the spotlight. It grows in the dark. When you get up on your own, when you take full ownership, when you discipline yourself without an audience, you cannot let go of a weak mind without changing your daily habits. What you repeat every day becomes who you are. In Chapter 3, we'll explore how to build unshakable discipline, even when you have zero motivation, and why the Stoics chose self-discipline over self-pity. Chapter 3, Discipline, the bridge to mental strength. There's a hard truth. You cannot build a strong mind while living a soft life. And soft doesn't mean your circumstances. It means how you respond to every morning you wake up, every time you delay, to every moment you tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow. We've all felt tired, unmotivated, and ready to quit. But the difference between ordinary people and the unbreakable ones lie in that moment, when you don't feel like doing what's right, but you do it anyway. That's discipline, the silent, steady bridge that carries you from who you are now to who you want to become. Discipline is not a cage. Discipline is freedom. And soon you'll understand why the Stoics saw it as the core of true power. Discipline through Stoic eyes. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The true victor is the one who has conquered himself first." In a world full of temptations and distractions, your biggest enemy is not other people. It's the weaker version of you, lurking inside you. A Stoic doesn't wait for motivation to act. They act because it's the right thing to do. To them, discipline is not about wearing armor and forcing themselves to push every day. It's about living with awareness, knowing what must be done and doing it, without pressure, without applause. Epictetus called it self-mastery, the ability to not be ruled by short-term desires, not to let your emotions carry you away like a leaf in the current. Discipline is how the Stoics maintain inner freedom. Feelings do not rule them, not dragged by circumstance. They don't need someone to control them because they've already learned to control themselves. And if you want to build a mind that commands respect, the first thing you need to master is not doing more, but controlling yourself more. Discipline versus emotion-driven, the cost of living by feeling. Picture two people. One works only when they feel inspired and stops when they feel tired. The other wakes up early daily and works purposefully, even when they feel nothing. Who will be further ahead after 1 year? 3 years? The answer is obvious. Living by emotion is like being a flag in the wind. When happy, you act. When sad, you stop. Every progress is interrupted. Every struggle becomes an excuse. Every moment of fatigue becomes a reason to quit. Discipline is different. The disciplined person is not always strong, but they are consistent. They work while sad. They train while tired. They keep moving forward even when there's no light ahead. Ironically, those who chase freedom by following emotions end up enslaved by them. And those who look restricted by discipline, they are the freest, because they control themselves. And in the end, this world will belong to the ones who master themselves. Stoic habits to build daily discipline. The Stoics didn't just speak ideals, they practiced them. Here are 4 daily habits to build discipline as solid as steel. 1. Wake up on time. No negotiation. Whenever you hit snooze, you send your mind a message, I don't have control. Starting the day with intention is how a Stoic wakes up inner strength. 2. Do the hardest thing first. No delays. Face what you fear right away. This builds a mindset, I can do hard things, and I've already done one today. 3. Journal and self-examine. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily to reflect on what he did wrong and what he needed to improve. Write your thoughts, note bad habits, and commit to growth. That's how you discipline your inner world. 4. Choose one minor discomfort each day. Cold shower. No morning coffee. Walk instead of driving. Every time you do something uncomfortable, you build grit and raise your tolerance for life. Discipline isn't a superpower. It's the result of thousands of small decisions to reject what's easy and choose what's right. Stoic mindset. The more tired you are, the more you must show up. When you're tired, it's not a sign to stop. It's a chance to train your resolve. The Stoics understood true strength is born in fatigue, because when you keep doing what must be done, while your body groans with laziness, you're saying, I rule over myself. Don't wait for energy to act. Act to create energy. Each time you push past a tiny limit, you strengthen your mental armor. And one day, the things that make others quit will be the exact places where you begin to rise. A steel mind doesn't need to look strong. Discipline is the foundation, but there's another kind of power, quieter, deeper, and far more intimidating: inner stillness. A strong mind doesn't need to yell, it doesn't need to win, it doesn't need applause. The next chapter will take you into the realm of silence. Not weakness, but the kind of silence where Stoics hide in plain sight, yet rule every situation. If you want to learn how to stay silent like the wise and respond like a warrior, stay on the path. Chapter 4, The Power of Silence. You don't need to look strong to be respected. There is a strength that makes no noise. It doesn't need to be right. It doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't need to stand out. But when it walks into the room, it goes quiet. Not because it speaks, but because it doesn't need to. That power, the Stoics called inner stillness. And it's not something you gain overnight. It's built over years of choosing to react less and observe more. It's when you can see the game's emotions try to play, but you're no longer pulled in. It's when you no longer need to win because you've already won inside. Silence becomes intimidating in a society where everyone tries to speak louder just to be seen. A person can sit in stillness, say nothing, and yet make everyone else uncomfortable. Not because they're aggressive, but because they have complete control over their energy. They don't get triggered. They don't show emotions. They don't let others drag them into meaningless fights. That's when you no longer need to appear strong, because you already are. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Be silent and let your actions speak." The Stoics understood that every unnecessary word is a leak in your inner strength. The weaker someone is inside, the more they feel the need to be seen on the outside. They can't handle being unnoticed or unvalidated, but those with true inner strength don't need the spotlight. They radiate calm, grounded presence. Silence isn't surrender. It's the move of someone who controls the game. When someone insults you and you don't react, they feel empty because they failed to control your emotions. That is power. The Stoic doesn't argue because they know every time you react, you hand over control of your mind to someone else. So they choose silence, not because they can't speak, but because they know when to speak and when to hold it. That silence isn't weakness, it's pretty resilient. It comes from the deep conviction that I don't need to do anything to prove my worth. I am enough, even if no one sees it. A strong mind isn't shaken by how others look at them. They know who they are and what they want and don't need the crowd's approval. Silence is the highest form of rebellion in a modern world where noise is the most common weapon. And to master that silence, you need training. Every time you want to react, pause. Every time emotions rise, observe them. Ask yourself, will this reaction help anything? If not, let it pass. Slowly, you build mental armor. Not something people can see, but something no one can break. And then you'll notice your silence earns their respect. They don't understand why you're not afraid or don't strike back. Why do you remain grounded when everything falls apart? That's when you realize you don't need to show your strength. You need to be present, and your energy will speak for itself. You've built discipline, you're mastering silence, but there's one more battlefield to face: the failures and falls no one sees. In the next chapter, we step into the quiet struggle of rebuilding yourself. Not to cry, not to complain, but to turn pain into power. To stand up again without needing anyone to lift you. Chapter 5. Recovery. Rising after silent collapse. No one sees you wrestling with yourself at night. No one hears the screams in your head when everything falls apart. But you still have to act like everything's fine. No one knows, and maybe no one needs to. True strength isn't found in those who never fall. It's found in those who fall quietly and rise silently, as if nothing ever happened. Silent breakdowns are the real test of the mind. There's no applause, no comfort, no spotlight. Just you, and only you, facing pain, disappointment, and emptiness. And then you must stop or keep walking, even with a torn heart. A Stoic doesn't seek pity. They don't need anyone to say, "Stay strong," because they know no one can walk them through the darkness. You have to walk on tired feet. You have to fight, even when all you have left is a faint breath. And one day, you'll realize what made you stronger wasn't winning against the pain. It was not letting it kill your faith in yourself. Recovery doesn't mean going back to who you were. It means returning. as someone deeper, sharper, and stronger. Pain doesn't break you, it shapes you. It teaches you to be quiet when you once reacted, to observe when you once trusted too quickly, to stand alone when you once leaned on others. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." That's why pain is no longer something to avoid. It becomes raw material for rebuilding your inner world. You learn to endure without closing your heart. You learn to stand without losing your kindness. You learn to move forward without needing applause. In the dark, others choose bitterness. The Stoic chooses discipline, silence, and momentum. They know wounds don't make them weaker, but show them who they are. Loneliness isn't scary unless you don't know who you are. Loss isn't frightening unless you let it steal your courage too. Resilience doesn't come from the body. It comes from an unshakable belief that you can survive anything and still become someone better. You want to build a mind that commands quiet respect. Start here. Turn your pain into fuel. Turn your silence into strength. Turn each invisible step into a giant leap when the moment arrives. And remember, when you recover in silence, the world won't see the process, but it will be stunned by the result. Now you've made it through the dark, but even the light brings a new kind of test. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to build a core mind, unshaken by situations, untouched by others. A mind like a fortress where nothing can get in and you never have to run again. Chapter 6. Building a solid core mind. Within each of us lies a core, not muscles, not fleeting willpower, but the internal center of thought and emotion. It's the place you rise from when the world knocks you down. It's the foundation you stand on when everything else falls apart. And if your core mind is weak, you'll be shaken by every judging glance, every small mistake, every rejection. But if you build a strong inner core, you'll become someone who cannot be moved. In a world where everything is measured by validation, likes, compliments, appearances, and standards set by others, it's easy to lose yourself. One negative comment can keep you up at night. One cold look can make you question your worth. And with every moment like that, a piece of you erodes from within. Without a solid core, you'll always live based on what others think of you. Your core is where you return when the outside world collapses. It doesn't depend on reputation, money, or image. It's what Marcus Aurelius once called the inner citadel, a place no one can enter unless you let them. 1. Separate your self-worth from outcomes. People with a weak mind tend to define themselves by outcomes. Failure means they're worthless, success means they matter. But this is a trap. If your value is tied to results, you'll always be unstable, because results are never stable. The Stoics taught, you control your actions, not the outcomes. Building a strong core starts with changing how you see yourself. You are not your success or your failure. You are the process. You are the effort. You are your ability to rise again. This isn't just philosophy, it's a way of life. Focus on what you can control and let everything else flow past you like water over stone. 2. Choose stability over emotional impulse. Have you ever said something you didn't mean just because you were angry? Given up on a dream just because you had a bad day? That's what happens when you live without a core. Someone with a strong core knows emotions may come, but that doesn't mean you have to act on them. Building a solid core means developing emotional steadiness. Like a stoic soldier standing in battle, they don't react impulsively. They don't get pulled by emotion, and they respond with reason and principle. They don't suppress emotion, they let it pass, and only then do they act. That's real power. Mastering yourself before trying to master anything else. 3. Train your mind the way you train your body. We understand how to train our bodies, lifting weights, running, eating right, but few train their minds. What do you feed your mind every day? Criticism, negativity, useless noise? If you want a strong mind, you have to train it. Read philosophy, not to sound smart, but to see life more clearly. Write in a journal, not to vent, but to observe yourself. Meditate, not to look cool, but to learn to stay still in chaos. Your mind is like a muscle. Use it right, and it grows stronger. Neglect it, and it weakens. 4. Know who you are and don't compromise. Someone with a strong inner core doesn't change to please others. They don't fake it out of fear of being left behind. They don't betray themselves to feel loved. This doesn't mean being stubborn. It means having principles. You know what's right and choose to live by it, even if no one agrees. A Stoic doesn't live to impress. They live to stay true. And that creates a quiet force. Because in a world full of masks, someone who is truly themselves will always shine. 5. Turn pain into fuel. No one escapes pain, but while some let it destroy them, others turn it into fuel to rise. The difference lies in the strength of the core. Remember that when you face pain, loss, betrayal, failure, it does not define you. It's just part of the journey. Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." So look at pain as a test, a way to find out how strong you truly are. And every time you go through a wound without bitterness, without revenge, your core grows thicker. 6. Embrace loneliness as part of your strength. You cannot build a core if you constantly need approval. Sometimes the right path is the one you walk alone. But don't fear it. Loneliness won't break you, it purifies you. In silence, you begin to hear your authentic voice. In solitude, you stop performing. You become yourself, and that is the first step toward building a mind that stands unshaken. 7. A personal declaration. I cannot be shaken. Once your core is in place, live with a silent inner declaration. A sentence you tell yourself every day. For example, I will not be moved by what I cannot control. I do not react, I choose. I do not ask for permission to live, I live with honor. No one needs to hear it, but you must believe it because that is the steel that holds your core together. And when your inner core has been forged to strength, you'll be ready to step into a higher level. Discipline beyond emotion. No longer just reacting well under pressure, but actively building a powerful, ordered, purpose-driven life, no matter how you feel. Chapter 7 will be where you bridge the inner strength to external impact, from self-mastery to actual results. This is the final step toward becoming truly unbreakable. Chapter 7, Discipline, Beyond Emotion Toward Sustainable Achievement. You don't need to feel excited to begin. You need to start. You don't need inspiration to move forward. You need to move. Because emotions are temporary, but discipline is forever. Every incredible journey has a turning point where impulsive emotions end and discipline begins. Ordinary people wait for motivation. The strong create results through consistent habits, repeated actions, and the ability to keep going even when no one cheers. This is the dividing line between those with potential and those who take real action, between dreamers and builders, between wishers and achievers. And that line has a name: discipline. You won't always feel like it, and that's precisely why you need discipline. If you only act when you're in the mood, you'll never do anything significant. If you only try when you feel motivated, you'll become a victim of emotional weather. Emotions are like wind. Here one moment, gone the next, impossible to hold. Discipline is like stone, steady, durable, unshakable. The disciplined don't ask, do I feel inspired? They ask, what needs to be done right now? And then they do it. Seneca once said, laziness is the most dangerous thing because it has no clear shape. It wears the costume of rest, wraps itself in relaxation, but it eats away at your soul each day. The disciplined aren't fooled by sweet-sounding delay. They know short-term discomfort is better than long-term regret. Discipline is not cruelty. It's the kindest act you can do for yourself. Most people think discipline is harsh, painful, or a loss of freedom. But in truth, nothing frees you more than discipline. Discipline is saying no to the things that ruin your future. It's going to bed early, even when you're lazy. It's skipping the meaningless fun because there's a bigger goal ahead. Discipline isn't restriction. It's your higher self taking care of your current self. Like a strict father who loves deeply, discipline doesn't hurt you. It protects you from regret. The Stoic doesn't just control emotion. They control action, regardless of emotion. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "When it's cold, I still rise. When I'm tired, I still walk. Because I don't live to be comfortable. I live to do what must be done." The Stoic doesn't let feelings decide behavior. If it's right, they do it. Even if they're scared, tired, bored, or unseen, they don't get swept away by fleeting emotions. They live by principles, and those principles become their freedom. That's real power. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's not doing what you know is wrong. Build systems of discipline. Don't just rely on willpower. Willpower is like a battery. It runs out. But systems are automatic. Smart people don't rely on mental toughness alone. They create systems that reduce the need for willpower. Example, create a morning startup habit before work. No social media, no news, just a cup of coffee and 10 minutes writing down your daily goals. Or fitness. Lay your workout clothes by the bed, set an alarm labeled, "Today is leg day." When you wake up, there's no thinking, just doing. Automating the right actions reduces friction until discipline becomes instinct. Small daily actions matter more than significant breakthroughs. You don't need to do something great every day. You must do the right thing repeatedly, even if it's small. 10 minutes of reading each morning. You finish 12 books in a year. 15 minutes of journaling each night. In a year, you'll understand yourself better than 1,000 pieces of advice. 20 minutes learning a skill each afternoon. In a year, you'll advance twice as fast as everyone else. Discipline is a string of small actions, consistent and pointed in the right direction. It's slow, but it's solid. It's not flashy, but it never betrays you. Discipline is repeating the right choice even when no one sees. Discipline is doing the right thing even when no one knows, no one praises you. You still attend the mental gym when there's no audience or applause. Discipline is walking past temptation, not because you don't want it, but because you want something more. Discipline is the promise you keep to yourself, even when others break theirs. A personal declaration, I act without waiting for emotions' permission. The disciplined don't wait until they feel ready. They understand action creates emotion, not the other way around. You don't need inspiration. Write and inspiration will come. You don't need confidence to start. Start and confidence will be built. The consistent action on rainy days makes the warrior, not the blazing fire under sunny skies. When you combine a solid mind, Chapter 6, with sustainable discipline, Chapter 7, you are no longer someone life can easily shake. You become the kind of person others silently admire, and sometimes quietly fear. Not because you are aggressive, but because you are uncontrollable. No one can manipulate someone who knows themselves, manages their emotions, and takes consistent action without needing praise. Chapter 8 will take you to the final level. Discipline that goes beyond emotion. To conquer yourself, create natural presence, and build profound influence, without shouting, without showing off. Chapter 8, Discipline Beyond Emotion, Becoming Unmanipulable. There's a type of person who makes others uneasy, not because of a harsh look or a loud voice, but because they remain calm even when the world is burning. They stay silent while others spiral out of control. They remain grounded while everyone else gets dragged into drama. They don't anger easily. They're not easily manipulated, and no psychological trick can bend their will. That is the person with discipline beyond emotion. In today's world, they are rare. When you stay disciplined, you take away others' power over you. Most people are controlled by their emotions. A single condescending glance can make them angry. One fake compliment is enough to make them act foolishly. However, highly disciplined people are different. They don't let other people's emotions decide their actions. You can't manipulate someone who doesn't get shaken. You can't control someone who doesn't react impulsively. And that's precisely what makes them so intimidating. Disciplined silence is the ultimate weapon. In many situations, silence is the most potent response. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you choose not to act out of emotion. Weak people have to respond right away. Strong people decide when to respond. The disciplined don't need to argue. They let actions speak for themselves. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. Marcus Aurelius. The more disciplined you are, the less vulnerable you become. Discipline isn't just resisting external temptation, it's mastering your internal reactions. You feel like lashing out at an insult? Discipline keeps you quiet. You want to give up from exhaustion? Discipline helps you push through. You want to complain during hardship? Discipline keeps you focused on solutions. When you rise above emotional impulses, you become untouchable. No one can exploit you because they no longer know how to trigger you. Society doesn't want you disciplined because disciplined people are hard to control. Media, social networks, advertising, all feeding your weakest emotions. Feeling lonely? There's comforting content. Feeling bored? Here's dopamine in video form. Feeling angry? Here are hundreds of clickbait titles to rage over. They don't need you to be strong. They need you to be predictable and easy to manipulate. But a disciplined person stays mentally clear in a world designed to make you lose control. They don't react the way others expect, and that makes them uncontrollable. Stoic doesn't mean emotionless. It means intentional. Stoicism doesn't teach you to become cold or numb. It teaches you when emotions should be expressed and when they should be redirected. You still feel injustice, but you don't let it consume you. You still experience disappointment, but you don't let it paralyze you. You still carry wounds, but don't use them to manipulate others. The disciplined don't deny emotion, they manage it. 3 ways to practice emotional discipline daily. 1. Pause for 3 seconds before reacting. Count to 3 before you speak or act on emotion. Your response will change and improve. 2. Journal the moments you lost control. Each night, write down one situation where emotions got the best of you and how you could respond better next time. 3. Pick one difficult habit and stick to it daily. Whether running, meditating, cleaning, or learning a language, stay disciplined. Not because someone asked you to, but because you're training yourself not to be ruled by emotion. Summary: the journey to build a mind that makes others step back. If made it this far with me, you've likely felt it too. Mental strength is not a gift you're born with. It's the result of small, repeated choices made every single day. We began this journey with one question: why do some people never break while others fall apart over the most minor setback? The answer has been unfolding throughout each chapter. From chapter 1, we realized that having a weak mindset isn't your fault, but keeping it is a choice. The turning point begins when you stop blaming and train your mind like a muscle. Every hardship is a workout. Every pain is a weight you lift. Chapter 2 showed us that real growth doesn't come from clever words, but from cutting away the soft habits that have silently held us back. By chapter 3, you had started shaping yourself through discipline. Waking up early when you wanted to sleep in, taking action without motivation, finishing what others quit. That was your first victory over yourself. Chapter 4 reminded us, failure is not what we should fear. What we should fear is never trying again. Strength isn't found in never falling. It's found in falling quietly and rising alone. Then came chapter 5, calm but crucial. You learned to recover without noise. You didn't need anyone to witness your healing because inner power is built in silence. In chapter 6, you began building a solid core, a mind unshaken by praise or criticism, unconfused by the noise, and unmoved by uncertainty. Chapter 7 focused on emotional resilience. Don't run from emotions, but don't let them steer the wheel of your life. You learned to master anger, fear, and all the quiet, nameless anxieties. And finally, chapter 8 brought you to the peak of inner discipline. Discipline beyond emotion. When you no longer react the way others expect, you become unmanipulable. That's the kind of power people fear. Not because of your strength, but because of your calm that cannot be bent. Now you are no longer who you used to be. You have the tools to build a mind made of steel. No need to shout, and yet the world will respect the silence you command. And if you're ready to step into the final chapter, keep going. Because what comes next is the final key, the one that locks the door on weakness, opens the path to becoming unbreakable. Final chapter, a mind that cannot be stolen. Life never promised you ease. It will test you with failure. It will hurt you through betrayal. It will knock you down with things you never saw coming. But through it all, you still have the power to choose how you respond. You can collapse by instinct or rise by choice. You can let emotions drive or let reason steer. You can drift through life like a leaf or root yourself like a tree, steady in the storm. This journey wasn't just motivational knowledge. It was a manual, a blueprint for daily self-mastery. Every chapter was a stone laid on the path, a path to building a mind no one can shake, a force so grounded that others pause, not because you shout, but because you cannot be controlled. Those with solid minds don't need to prove anything. They don't need to yell to be heard. They don't chase success to be validated. Their calm, consistency, and discipline are their silent declaration. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. Start today, or stay led by a life that's not yours. You now have a choice. You can turn off this video and return to reacting from emotion, complaining when things go wrong, and repeating cycles that keep you stuck. Or you can decide, I will become unbreakable, not by changing the world overnight, but by starting with you, your thoughts, your reactions, your stability day by day. If this journey gave you something of value, pass it on. Someone out there might be waiting for the quiet strength you've just begun to build. And don't forget, subscribe to Sovereign Stoic, where we train minds like stone, build resilience without noise, and earn respect not through volume, but through unshakable silence. This is just the beginning. Stay grounded, and I'll see you on the next journey.